Hello amigos, so in the first two episodes of Classroom of Elite, we saw our main character Ayanokoji Kiyotaka and others dealing with this typical S system. We saw our main character teaming up with Suzune Horikita and Kiki Kushida to form a study group to help other weak students pass the exams, but it didn't end well. We also saw a sneak peek into Horikita's past and the reveal of test results at the end. I have put the playlist link in the description, and today we're going to talk about episode 3, and yeah, things get pretty wild. If you remember, this school is all about competition. Like, it's serious business, right?
Yeah. Students
are ranked, and everything comes down to these points.
Yeah.
They can use those points for anything like favors or special privileges. It's crazy. And in this episode, we see just how far some students are willing to go to get those points.
Interesting.
Like, we've got Ken Sudu's. He's one of the main characters. And guess what? He's failing English.
Really?
Yeah. And it's a huge deal because if he doesn't pass, he gets expelled, like kicked out of school.
Yeah.
And you can like feel the tension. You know, everyone's freaking out because they realize how much trouble he's in. Then there's Suzune Horikita. Now, she's usually this super cold and distant person, right? But she actually steps up to help Sude. It's a big moment because it shows that maybe she's not as heartless as we thought. But keep an eye on her. There's definitely more to her than meets the eye. Now, while all this is happening, Kiyotaka Ayanokōji is working behind the scenes. He's like the mastermind trying to figure out how to save Sudo.
Interesting.
This guy's seriously smart, but he's also kind of manipulative. It makes you wonder what his real motives are. What's he really after?
So,
to help Sudo, Ayanokoji makes this deal with an upperclassman to get his hands on some old exam papers. And this is where things get a little morally gray, right? Is he cheating? Is he just being resourceful? It's a tough call, especially in this crazy school.
Interesting.
And just when you think it can't get any wilder, we see this confrontation between Ayanokoji and Kiki Kushida.
Oh, so.
Remember how Kushida's always so sweet and innocent? Well, in this scene, her true colors come out. And let me tell you, it's not pretty.
Really?
Yeah, she's got this whole dark side that we never knew about. Makes you wonder what she's capable of and what she's really up to. But for now, back to Sudi. So Ayanokoji, with those old exams, he comes up with a plan. He decides to involve the whole class, not just Sudu. To make it look legit, he pretends that Kushida got the exams and gives them to everyone to study from.
Interesting.
And to add another layer of intrigue, he even brings in Kakeru Ryun, a rival from another class.
Oh.
Now this brings up a question. Is using old exams even fair? Like, some students think it's totally cheating.
Yeah.
Honami Ichino's, for example, she's totally against it. But for others, it's all about survival in this cutthroat school, right?
Interesting.
The episode builds up to this really intense scene where Sudu's English teacher is announcing the retest results. Everyone's on edge. And after all that studying, after all that stress, Sudu passes. He's not getting expelled, which is a huge relief for everyone, especially his close friends.
So.
But wait, there's a twist. Ayanokoji tells Horikita that he orchestrated the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, he planned for her to help Sudut.
Really?
He knew she'd want to protect her class's points and their reputation. It just shows how cunning he is, always thinking a few steps ahead. And remember that deal he made for the old exams? He paid a hefty price. 100,000 of his own private points. That's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, is he just manipulative, or does he actually care about his classmates?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like we're left with all these questions like, what's going to happen next? What's Kushida hiding?
Yeah.
And to add to the drama, the episode ends with this late-night confrontation between Kushida and Ayanokoji.
Really?
Yeah, she totally knows he was behind everything, and she's not happy about it. She even threatens to expose him to the whole class unless he tells her everything. It's such a cliffhanger, right? You're left wondering, what's she gonna do?
So.
In one episode, we see sabotage, desperation, alliances, betrayals. It's crazy. But what really gets you is how they show the human side of all this competition. It makes you, how far would you go if winning was everything?
Yeah.
Would you cross lines to get ahead? Could you even trust anyone? Or would you always be looking over your shoulder? Tough questions, right? And seeing them play out in this school drama is just fascinating. What I found really interesting is how much focus there is on strategy and manipulation. It's like they're playing chess.
Yeah.
Every move has consequences.
Yeah.
You know, like when Ayanokoji decides to get the whole class involved in Sudu's retest. It's brilliant.
Interesting.
It helps Sudu, of course, but it also creates this sense of unity in Class D.
Yeah.
But then you see how he manipulates Horikita, and it makes you wonder about his morals. Is he really trying to help, or does he have some secret agenda? And then there's Kushida. Her true nature is like a total bombshell.
Really?
She goes from this sweet, helpful classmate to this manipulative, threatening person. It adds so much complexity to the story. Her confrontation with Ayanokoji shows that she has secrets and she'll do anything to protect them.
Yeah.
This episode really highlights the difference between what you see and what's really going on.
Yeah.
Like this elite school looks all fancy and prestigious, but underneath it's ruthless and cutthroat. Students are willing to do whatever it takes to succeed. It's like watching a pressure cooker about to explode.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take in.
All right.
Right? We see Sudu on the verge of getting kicked out, and then bam, the relief when he passes. But you can see how things are shifting in Class D. Like Ayanokoji, even though he's using people, he helps them out big time. He's like the secret weapon. You know, but the way he does things makes you think, what's really going on in that head of his?
Yeah.
Is he a true friend, or is he just playing everyone? And then there's Kushida. She seems so innocent at first, but now we know she's got this whole other side to her.
Really?
It makes you wonder, what is she hiding?
Yeah.
And what's she going to do next?
So many unanswered questions. That's what I love about Classroom of the Elite. It keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
It's all about strategy,
Yeah.
everyone trying to outsmart each other, and there are mysteries everywhere you turn. Interesting. So as we wrap up our deep dive into episode 3, think about this. What if you're in this school?
Could you survive in this pressure cooker environment? Would you even want to? And what would you be willing to do to come out on top? It's something to really think about. Now, let's talk about episode 4. So in this episode, one of the students from Class D, his name's Ken Sudu, he gets into some serious trouble after a fight. And the consequences could be like really bad, not just for him, but for the entire class.
Interesting.
So imagine this, right? Sudu's just walking down the street, you know, minding his own business, and he bumps into these 3 students from Class C. And like, you know, words are exchanged, things get heated pretty quickly, and bam, a fight breaks out. And like the details are kind of murky here. You know, each side has their own story about what went down.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that Sudi ends up getting accused of assault. Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. Because in this school, everything is about points.
Really?
Yeah, like good behavior earns you points, bad behavior loses you points, and like the whole class's standing is affected by how many points they have. Exactly.
Yeah.
So if Sudu is found guilty, not only could he get expelled, but Class D could lose like a ton of points, which would seriously hurt their standing. We're talking about privileges, resources, even their future prospects, like everything's on the line.
Yeah.
And the episode does a great job of showing like how everyone reacts to this whole situation.
Right.
Like some students believe Sudu, especially his close friends, but others are really quick to judge him based on his past. You know,
Oh.
he's kind of known for being a bit of a hothead. And that definitely affects how people see him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what Kiyotaka Ayanokōji, the main character, points out.
Yeah.
You know, people tend to believe what fits their existing narrative, right? Like if someone has a good reputation, they get the benefit of the doubt. But if they have a bad reputation, even if they're telling the truth, people might not believe them.
Interesting.
It's like really makes you think about how often we do that in our own lives.
Yeah.
Anyway, Class D isn't just going to sit around and let Sudu get expelled without a fight.
Right.
They know they need to find evidence, witnesses, anything to prove that he's innocent. So Kiki Kushida, who's always been like the heart of the class, you know, she steps up and tries to rally everyone to action.
All right.
And this is where Ayanokoji's like super sharp observation skills come in.
Yeah.
He notices that Ari Sakura, this really quiet girl from their class, she has this like strange reaction when Kushida's asking for help. And he starts to think that maybe Sakura saw something that night, something important, but she's too scared to come forward.
Really?
Yeah. And then it gets even more intense because Sakura eventually admits that she has this big secret she's hiding. She calls it a mask, and she's like terrified of anyone finding out about it.
So.
Yeah, and she's so scared that she'd rather stay silent, even if it means Sudu might get expelled. And we also get some background on Sudu himself in this episode. Like, turns out he used to be a delinquent, which explains his reputation and why people are so quick to judge him. But it also makes you wonder, you know, can people really change, or are they always going to be defined by their past?
Yeah.
It's a tough question.
You know, it's really fascinating how this episode digs into this whole thing about judging people based on their past, you know? It really makes you think about how quick we are to, like, slap a label on someone based on what we've heard about them, or even just, like, one thing we've seen them do, you know, even if they've, like, totally changed as a person.
Oh yeah, so true. It's like we put these labels on people, and it's, like, impossible for them to shake them off. And the way the school system works in Classroom of the Elite, it just like amplifies that whole thing, you know, with the point system and everything. It's like this constant pressure to be perfect, and like one little mistake can totally mess everything up. And you really see that happening with Sotubis, right? Even though he's obviously trying to be a better person, his past as a delinquent keeps coming back to bite him. It makes you wonder if this system even gives people a chance to redeem themselves, you know?
Right.
And then you have Sakura carrying around this huge secret. We still don't know all the details about it, but that whole mask thing really makes it seem like she's hiding a big part of herself, you know? Maybe something she's ashamed of or embarrassed about. It makes it a little easier to understand why she's so hesitant to help Sudi, even though it's frustrating for everyone else. But what I find really interesting is how Ayanokoji is dealing with this whole thing. He's not just jumping to conclusions or anything. He's like carefully watching everything that's happening, gathering information, trying to figure out the truth. He's not letting people's reputations or his own biases get in the way of his judgment. It's a good reminder for us too. You know, like how often do we just assume things about people without really knowing the whole story?
Yeah.
This episode is like a wake-up call to think about how we see other people and how much weight we give to their past.
So true.
And what about Kushida? She's so determined to help Sudu even when everyone else is doubting him. It really shows what kind of person she is. Like, she's driven by compassion, even if it means putting her own reputation on the line. But it makes you wonder if her actions are really helping Sudu or if they're just enabling him, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
It's a tough question, right? Is it always the right thing to do to support someone, no matter what, even if they've messed up? Or is there a point where you need to, like, step back and let them face the consequences of their actions? It's something to think about as the story goes on, I think.
Definitely.
Have you ever been in a situation where someone you knew was being judged unfairly? Did you try to help them, or did you just stay silent? This episode really makes you think about those kinds of choices and what impact they can have.
It does.
What's also really interesting about this episode is that it's not just about Sudu and whether he gets expelled or not. It's about these bigger ideas, you know, like trust and reputation and redemption. It's asking us to think about how much someone's past should affect their present and if people deserve a chance to change. So we're left with a lot of unanswered questions, right? Will Sakura be able to overcome her fear and tell everyone what she knows? Will the truth about the fight actually come out? And can Sudu ever escape the shadow of his past?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
You know, as we're talking about all of this, something keeps coming back to me, and it's that line from Ayanokoji about people believing those with good reputations, you know? It makes you wonder if we're all just putting on an act, like wearing these masks, just like Sakura, you know?
Yeah.
Are we ever really being ourselves, or are we always performing for other people?
Right.
It's a pretty deep thought, right? But it's something that this show keeps coming back to, this idea that appearances can be deceiving. And that even the people we think we know really well can have these secrets. It's like we're all in this giant game trying to figure out who to trust and who's playing us.
Yeah, it's like a constant game of strategy.
Exactly. In a system like this school, where it's all about competition and getting ahead, it feels like the stakes are even higher.
Right.
One wrong move, one slip of the mask, and your whole world can come crashing down.
Interesting.
And I think that's what makes this episode so interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just about this fight and whether Sudu gets expelled or not.
Right.
It's about the pressure we all feel to fit in.
Yeah.
You know, to present a certain image to the world. And what happens when we fail to do that?
So,
as we're wrapping up this deep dive into episode 4 of Classroom of the Elite, I'm curious, what stood out to you the most? Did you find yourself sympathizing with Sudu even though he has this past?
Yeah.
Were you intrigued by Sakura and her secret and the fear she's carrying around?
Right.
What about you? What do you think about this whole idea of masks and how we present ourselves?
So for me, it's the characters. They're so complex. No one is completely good or bad. They're all just trying to figure out this system and make the best choices they can.
Yeah, and those choices aren't always perfect, are they?
Definitely not.
And I think that's what makes the show so thought-provoking.
Right.
It doesn't give us easy answers or tell us who's right and who's wrong. It forces us to really think about the characters and what they do, and to recognize that human nature is complicated.
Yeah, it's not black and white.
Exactly. So as you keep watching Classroom of the Elite, think about this. What kind of mask are you wearing? And are you ready to take it off?
That's a great question for everyone to consider.
It really is. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up there. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get updated on a daily basis and follow this journey of Classroom of the Elite. Until then, sayonara.